The the modern conservative approach to money, and particularly significant money, is very ambiguous. So, yesterday, when President Zelensky and Mr. Sunak were having I call him Mr. Raab for a second, shows you where my mind is going. When Mr. Sunak and Mr. Zelensky were having a press conference down in the south of the UK, in front of a tank, Sunak was asked about Russian sanctions and about pandering to Russian money. Well, the reality, of course, is that even though Sunak said that Britain led the way in imposing sanctions on Russians and on Russia, it's not true, number one. Number two, Britain gave oligarchs a window of opportunity to get their money out of the country. Some of them chose that opportunity, some of them managed to do so, some of them didn't. But there is a difference in Russia between billionaires and the multi-billionaires, the oligarchs who are working for Putin. There are billionaires who have somehow managed to make a buck out of the collapse of communism and the emergence of the Yeltsin-Putin regimes, and to do so legally and effectively honestly. And then there are those, quite a significant number, who are simply squirreling away money for the regime. And it's sometimes difficult to know which is which. Essentially, a billionaire is possibly clean and a multi-billionaire is not. But the problem is that the Conservative Party has an ambiguous approach to people with money. And I think it's really interesting to reflect on what was reported about the exchange that took place after I think it was a Today programme, where Gina Miller, the anti-Brexit activist, was being interviewed on the same programme as Dominic Raab. And Dominic Raab apparently tried to intimidate her. He was abusive. He said to her afterwards that he couldn't make up his mind as to whether she had too much money or whether she was just stupid. That is what he allegedly said to her. It is extraordinary. And then he shouted at a runner to get my effing car. And she observed that he was aggressive and intimidating. Of course, a close friend of Mr. Raab then went on record to say these are baseless and malicious claims, time to jump on a political bandwagon and give Gina Miller the publicity she craves. But the reality is that this is consistent with the image which we get. If people with money are doing what the present politicians want, they are given license to move it around and to use it. If people are not doing what they want, they are ridiculed and harangued. And meanwhile, the politicians on the front bench are creaming it in. Is that an expression or is that rude? I think that's an expression. They are making so much money. Boris has now topped £5 million in just a short time since he resigned. £5 million in just over 5 months. It is shocking, utterly shocking. Is that a war chest or is he just gloating? I simply don't know. I am staggered. Matt Hancock, of course, is on a much smaller scale, and that's probably about as much as he's going to make until he retires. Retires from what? Retires from the stationery cupboard. Ooh, Gina. I don't know. I can't imagine that Matt Hancock has a future, really, in any department at all. And I can't imagine he's going to be appointed as some sort of ambassador for a bank. Matt Hancock needs to grab what he can while he can. And possibly the same goes for Nadine Dorries. Liz Truss, well, everybody needs a laugh, don't they? We all need to see that extraordinarily winsome smile those those excuses and the hands flapping about. I was chatting to somebody this morning, and she suggested that Nadine is actually Nadine? Liz. That Liz Truss has now got a new hand gesture. But I praise her for the little work that she's doing on her hand gestures. There we are. I tried to avoid using the term hand job, but somehow it's so difficult, so difficult. Liz Truss sort of sums all that up, doesn't she?